Hello and welcome. We are here again to talk to you about all of the social media tips and tricks, and every week we see you right now at 12:30. I am Alexandra, going to be hosting this week, and we are met with a very web team heavy group today. We have Billy, who is one of our web developers, and Daniel, who's also one of our web developers. So we've got some cool stuff we're going to talk to you about. As usual, we'll talk about the news that's been going on. It's an interesting thing that we do. So yeah, but let's go ahead and jump into ways that we can improve your web presence. This is something that also got talked about last week, is some people don't have a plan for their social media and they're not seeing how important it is to have things like your website involved in your social media plan. And so Billy's actually going to talk to us about something pretty essential that we don't always think first about. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
So I'm going to speak about the first thing that you see when you go to someone's
piece, but it's only so credible if we don't see real faces of
Yeah.
you or your work or what that really means.
And the viewers will notice that when they go onto your site and see that stock image. So it is important to have a good image on there.
Cool.
Agreed.
All right.
While picking out your stock images, it's also very important to keep a note of copyright laws, making sure that these images are usable for business. There are a lot of free sites that will give you images, but they're not legal for business. They're okay for personal use, but not business. I suggest like 123RF is a service that we use when we have to find stock images. We'll go with that. Adobe has some great offerings, and there are plenty of sources for those online.
Yeah.
But they're often full size, full like resolution, full file size. So like they're like 2 to 4 megabytes, and they're 9 million pixels wide. And really, you want to shoot for something that's on an average of 65 kilobytes, which is like less than what 5% of the original file size. There are various ways to deal with doing that. You can either do it through tools like built into your OS, and there's plenty of online services to do that.
And so what's the reason that you want it to be that size?
A page speed.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can get it if you have a small file size. It loads quicker. Also, like good old Google Analytics and Google SEO search really likes the smaller file size. And in addition to that, they're also looking for alt tags on your image. So be sure to put your alt tags in, as well as a description.
So tell me what an alt tag is. I mean, I know, but tell them what an alt tag is.
Alt tag is basically the so it's like a very short description of what the image is. A lot of the times I like to put the company name, and so be like KWSM, Facebook Live shot, something like that. A little bit of a descriptor, and that'll also help with your ADA compliance.
Yeah, and so ADA is really important, and something that I know a lot of people, we have a spectrum of clients and different, just depending on what they do. But what that ADA compliance is going to do is that if you have someone who has a need for a web browser that helps them read the page, for whatever reason, it's a little bit difficult, and it'll allow them to read it out loud. Their mouse will hover over an image, and it'll read to you what that is. So if they can't see the images, or maybe they just have some difficulty, and what it is, it's about accessibility, and it's so that those things are there, and that also helps with your scores and SEO. Yeah. All of that ties together.
And if your content management system allows for the adding of a description, I would also allow that, and that can be a bit more robust than your alt tag.
Yeah, that's really good for SEO too.
Yeah, think of your alt tag as like a headline for the image, and then your description will be like a short paragraph about it.
Yeah, so hero images. I mean, I really think that this is something people really want to think about, and I think you notice when you see a website that has a really strong hero image, you're just like, I have a feeling immediately when I looked at this site. Or you see the stock lady eating salad, and you're like, I'm not really sure what this is about. But it is something it's the first impression that someone's going to see when they go to your website, unless you're specifically running social that's linking to a landing page, which would also have its own hero image. Your home page is going to be the one that people land on first. And so we have, our fearless leader as basically our hero image. You know, she's recognized, they know who she is. She's usually the one sitting here. And so that idea, and that's part of it, we'll talk about it day in and day out, about that authenticity of, it doesn't have to be someone's face. You have to look at like what your business is. You know, if you're a law firm, if you are someone who works in a medical field, if you are a restaurant, maybe that's a beautiful shot of the inside of your restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, so have you guys ever come across any that were like really good? Can you think, I totally am putting you on the spot for this one, but like any hero images that you can think of that were just like, wow, that really impressed me. You don't necessarily have to tell me who it was, but.
Teenage Engineering.
Teenage Engineering?
It's a company that does like musical devices.
Oh, okay.
But like you like open it up, you're like, oh, take my money. Just take it.
All right, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, because it's simple, it's straightforward. Like I went to your site to look at this, and that's the first thing you give me.
Yep.
You know, so it's a good.
It is that
payoff.
first impression right there. Yep.
Also, want to throw in something real quick about video heroes.
I was going to ask about that next.
Other than the file size, don't worry about that so much. You want to make sure you can get it as small as you can. Our video guy gives us huge ones, and I make him cringe by the like tiny file sizes. I get out of that mainly using like the tools in like Adobe Premiere and stuff like that to get my file sizes down. I do have a video background, so that's not that hard for me, but it is something you will want to research if you have a large video header. And you also want to make sure it is maybe like 30 seconds or less, because that'll automatically give you a smaller file size, and then from there you can compress it down.
Yeah.
Formats like WebM, which is the Google compression, is really good.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of tools out there, and so we're not going to get into too much of the nitty-gritty, but there are a lot of tools out there to help you
I
with
could
that.
start talking nitty-gritty.
I know. We have to pull him back sometimes.
Well, to go back to the original question, a lot of good, successful hero images that I've seen is where the focal point leads to the call to action. So you kind of, the first thing you see on the hero is the hero image, and then from that leads to the call to action, which is why you want them on the landing page to begin with, is to get to that call to action.
Yeah.
So it's the very successful ones I've seen, kind of, it could be someone looking at the button or looking at the text with the information that you want them to see. And also make sure that it can translate well to mobile, because a lot of people are looking at mobile, so you want to make sure that if they're on their phone or on their desktop, that the hero image can work well on both. So
that's one that's had research done behind it about like if there are, for example, faces in an image, we naturally immediately want to look at the face, even if there's other things going on. Or if we saw something recently that the hero image was someone pointing, and the pointing finger in the background kind of drew your eye to that call to action. You kind of naturally got that direction. So it can tell its own story. Those can be really important.
Especially with like line of sight. If you see someone's face looking at something, you're naturally going to look at whatever they're looking at.
Right, yeah. So that was a lot of information on just a hero image. Clearly we could talk about that forever, but you did bring up something, which was video, because those videos are very important. And so we're actually going to transition over to Daniel, and you're going to talk to us about some YouTube SEO.
I'm going to talk about some YouTube SEO, because guess how many hours per minute a video gets uploaded to YouTube?
I don't even think I can try and guess millions.
About 300 hours per minute.
Per minute.
Which per day.
I guess per day would be millions.
Up, which is a lot of video out there.
300 per minute?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you 3 tips to stand out with all those other videos out there. So number 1, you want to have a good title. You want to make sure that the title describes what the video is about really well, because YouTube is almost like a search engine on its own. So a lot of people are looking up, how do I get leads on Facebook, or how do I do this? So a good way to have a title, if the video description is showing how to do something, it could be how do I do this one task, you know? That's a very good way to have those videos link up to what the title is for what the person's looking at.
Yeah, and I know we've mentioned this kind of thing before, is that blog titles kind of work in the same concept, and since YouTube is the number 2, because it's owned by Google search engine, because he's right, that's exactly where we go to. It's like, I even had to look up how to change a rear light on my car, and was like, I have no idea, I've never done this before. how to change, and I immediately got the answer because that title told me. I was like, okay, that looks reliable.
Yeah, that's one of the majority of the ways I look up videos on YouTube. Is the how to. So
and that can apply to anything. It doesn't have to be a physical task. If it is like what you said, how to optimize my Facebook post or my website, how to compress a file.
Yeah.
For my hero image. Yeah. All right, so what's the next one?
So tip number 2 is to have a very good thumbnail. So the thumbnail image is basically what you see when you see the list of videos of when you're searching. So that little thumbnail gives an idea of what the video is going to be like. So you want it to be professional. You want people to see that there's like high quality, that they're going to get into that video. And know it's going to be a well-produced video. So that thumbnail is very important because if it doesn't look good, no one's going to click on it.
Or doesn't look like anything.
Sometimes look like anything, yeah.
Sometimes someone didn't think about it, and you're like, okay, I get that this was uploaded by someone's phone, but I'm looking at it like the thumbnail is of the ground. What am I getting into here? Yeah.
I've noticed on a lot of the tutorial kind of based ones, they'll have like a bit of text on the screen, like a very nice kind of title text on it with some descriptors about what it's about, so you can see even before you go into it a little bit deeper information.
Yeah, and a lot of people like me are visual people, so I won't even read the descriptions. I'll just go and look to see, like, oh, this video looks like it'd be fun to watch,
Yeah.
So
now the descriptions you can't disregard though, because that is how YouTube is going to find it.
That's how YouTube's going to find it.
It works in that same kind of Google integration when we were talking about alt tags and descriptions and things like that. That description is important, but visually, when you're trying to capture someone quickly, that's really what you're looking for.
Yeah, and tip number 3 is to have a good description.
See?
Because a lot of people do like to read, so they want to read to make sure that it's specific to what they're looking for, because a lot of videos can be very broad, and then it's always the worst thing. You waste a couple seconds of your time realizing you're on the wrong video, looking at something that isn't specific to what you're looking for. Yeah. And also it helps you stand out with all the other videos on there. It helps you type in, if you're typing in what you're searching for, it'll read all that information and make sure that description is in line with what you Googled or what you put on YouTube. And so then those videos will pull up top. So the more specific the description is, and the less broad, the more likely it'll be pulled up for what people are specifically looking for. And you want people who are specifically looking for those videos to get on those videos, because the longer they stay on your videos, the better of a push you get. YouTube kind of bumps it up. But if people are getting onto your YouTube video and the description isn't what it is, and people realize that and they leave your video right away, YouTube kind of pushes it down a little bit, because they realize people aren't staying on this video for as long as other videos are, so it's probably not that good.
Yeah, so that algorithm is recognizing that, okay, this is probably not providing the answer that you needed.
So you want to make sure your description is as specific as possible, so the right people are getting to the right videos.
Yeah, and I think another thing, and you could go look at our YouTube channel and see we have consistent thumbnails for all of our tips of the day. We put all of these social media help desks on, so if somebody wants to go back later and watch it, that's a great way to do it. And we do get viewers from that where they can't tune in with us live, or they don't see it on Facebook, but they can find us later. And that's another interesting thing, is consistency. Is if you're able to regularly upload a video or upload multiple videos that answer questions, that deal with, whatever your subject matter is based on your clientele and, what you're looking to give to the people that is your audience, that is also going to show that, hey, this person is providing information, providing fresh content on the regular. Yeah. And that looks really good too. Yeah. So takeaways on YouTube is...
First one is have a good title, a good thumbnail image, and a good description. So make sure to follow those 3 steps to have good search engine optimization in YouTube.
Yep, very cool. And just so you know, we're not done quite yet. We're going to talk about in the news, but we do have a YouTube boot camp coming up. It's not this Friday, but the Friday after. And so I believe we still have places to sign up. So if you are interested, you can get a hold of us that way. So talking about news, we're going to transition from YouTube to Netflix. Netflix is working on allowing you to share the show from the Netflix app that you're watching to your Instagram story. That seems like a weird crossover, but I'm not sure it's that weird now that I think about it. So they're working to, I'm just going to go ahead and read this for you guys. They're working to create a more personal user experience through the expression of Instagram stories. You've got all kinds of your normal story stuff, which is going to be, you can add text, you can doodle on it, you've got all kinds of GIFs, and you can have voting going on, like which Netflix show should I be watching, I guess, if that's what you're interested in. I probably could use that. I sit there for 20 minutes and I still haven't picked anything. But what's cool is for businesses, this actually might be good for you because you might have, so we give an example, but let's say you are a realtor. Well, a really good show to maybe consider sharing is Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. That's just a thing that's going on, Maybe you're a bakery and you could be talking about the Great British Bake Off that you've been watching on Netflix. You can share it to your business, and that is something that people really bond over, and you guys can give me your opinion in just a second of we bond over, there's a reason that there's always been the joke of, people coming into the office on Monday or Wednesday, standing around a cooler and talking about the newest episode of whatever it was that happened.
Yeah.
So this just allows your business to be part of that conversation of hey, they're in here, they're with it. What do you guys think? Do you think that's
I think you're absolutely right. Between friends, they always are talking about the new Netflix series or the new Netflix shows, and it's a great way to interact with each other, and why not have businesses do it too?
Yeah.
People are interested in what you're selling or what you're doing, and it's a great way for you as a company to be like, hey, here, get a little more informed in what we do. It builds the interest of the viewer. The viewer feels more knowledgeable in buying a house, and so they might feel more comfortable talking to a real estate agent or a bakery or anything like that you were saying. So I think that's a really good idea for businesses to start getting into.
Yeah, it feels like it's a good thing for engagement. And I know we've talked about this before on this, is people like polls, and Instagram stories are blowing up. We know that they're everywhere, and there's even a bunch of, companies are now putting together strategies for Instagram stories and how they're going to do it. So, can you imagine some Instagram account for a business that you follow has a story that's hey, vote on, are you watching this? Yeah. Yes, no, in rating things. Do you think that's a thing that could really...
This one's going way over my
You're I don't use those.
Yeah, I'm not the best guy for social.
Gotcha. Yeah. You're a web guy. You're the one who's going to tell me all about the details of how to get my files to be smaller.
Yeah, if you want to figure out how we can make it work, then I'm interested. What you do with it, that's
So not all demographics is what we're hearing.
Yeah.
But we know that Instagram stories are growing, so we know that demographic is there. He just may not be yours.
I think my wife would love it.
Okay, there you go.
I definitely understand why people would do it and why people would use it, but it's not me.
Yeah, and Netflix is such a phenomenon. Where it started here we'll mail you your CDs or your DVDs so you don't have to go drop them off.
One of the smartest pivots for
they still do that. I forget that they still do that. That's still a thing.
My grandparents still get the DVDs.
Grandparents are all doing it. Oh, all right.
We'd always forget to mail them back.
I've got a stack of them.
Yeah.
That's why I had to give up on that part of the story.
We'd lose them.
So Netflix is trying to be part of that social thing, and one thing that I actually want to mention, and I know they have started doing their interactive videos. Have you seen those? So there was the one that came out that was Black Mirror, and it was called Bandersnatch, and there was 5 different endings you can get, and it gave you options of okay, you get to choose where the story goes. Now that wasn't the first one that did that. Yeah. They actually started with, I think it was a Minecraft story for kids. There's a couple of kids ones out there with the kids. You can either just let it run. So they're looking for that engagement interaction themselves.
They're getting sued by the Choose Your Own Adventure book people?
I heard about that. So I guess, again, check your copyright.
Yeah, check your copyright.
I don't know how that's going to, I can't comment on that. I don't know how that's going to play out. Okay, so let's move on to Twitter. So Twitter is showing that their strategies are working. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this to you so I get all the technical stuff right. Their growth and success, but it seemed to be quickly overshadowed by creative outlets given by other platforms such as Instagram and Snapchat. We saw that. It's a lot of that instant gratification where it's a very quick thing. Snapchat did it with, those short videos that went away in the end of 24 hours. Instagram jumped on it and somehow has done it better, which, they've got a huge team behind them doing that. And of course, Facebook. So Twitter is its own beast, but it's got these other places that have the resources to try and take their spots. But on February 7th, Twitter released its daily active user number for the first time, and it was to prove that their 2018 strategy is paying off, and it is not left in the dust. It says that part of their strategy was, and as we know, Twitter got a lot of backlash in 2016, 2017 for the way that information was being spreaded that was not true or manipulated, and so they got in a lot of trouble for that, and they've been working on cleaning up some of those things. So this is from the chief executive, Jack Dorsey, says that their strategy included promoting healthy conversation on the platform, making it easier for users to participate in conversation, improving the platform for advertisers, so this is where businesses come in, and focusing on new technology to improve the business. And so while they have 126 million daily users, and they're behind Facebook's giant 1.2 billion users, it's seen a 9% increase in daily active users. So that's interesting, but they are still managing to grow. Now, 9% of 126 million is a lot. And so I think it's been really cool that Twitter has taken the stance they did, where they went, okay, we recognize that we were not as responsible as we should have been. Let's find ways to have these conversations be better and get rid of any of the things that are not healthy to that conversation. When you start finding that there is misinformation going around, whatever it is, the conversation gets skewed. What do you guys think of hearing that they're still growing?
It's interesting. Yeah, I know they purged all their inactive or bot accounts.
I think they're still going through it, but as many as they could.
I think that's really good. Good for them for doing a lot better. That's one of the accounts that I don't have. I couldn't. I kind of got lost.
There's a lot
in that, but I know Jeff uses it a lot.
Yeah,
and he uses it for a way I didn't realize that people use it for. It's more to interact with the web. Like if he watches the show Walking Dead and he'll see a big twist in it and he'll go in and search it and see what people are talking about it. So I think that open platform is building up, and
it's gonna stick around.
It's gonna stick around. I didn't realize people used it that way.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because a lot of users, and this is how businesses can get involved too, is a lot of users. That's a perfect example of when a show happens, or a thing that happened and blew up all over my Facebook feed, and apparently all over Twitter, was they finally released a really short spot for the live action Aladdin.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was mad at the first picture because Will Smith's genie wasn't blue, and now he is blue, and everybody's mad about the way he's blue. And Twitter is losing their mind over this. But that's a really good gauge, and again, it kind of comes back to entertainment. That's such a cool gauge on what social media is. Okay, let's kind of get a feeling for what's happening out there.
I think it's a very interesting social barometer.
Yeah, there you go. That's
being able to really okay, how does the masses feel about this? You can get a quick little slice of that.
And again, it kind of ties in with the way Netflix is trying to do things, and is being a part of that conversation on Twitter for your business might be tapping into those conversations that are coming up, finding ways to include yourself in that conversation, interacting with other people, and maybe you have a solution for something that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's just about finding that community, and I know that Twitter encompasses all of them. You will find any subject out there. So now to talk about the big one, Facebook has turned 15 years old. That shocked me when I heard it, because then I realized that I was 15 or 16 when I started it. No, it was a little bit later than that, because it was first only for college students. I wasn't in college yet. So February 4th was the big day. 15 years, they have changed so many ways that we interact with the universe and your circle of friends and businesses and enemies sometimes. You know, it's just all kinds of things. It's like, when did you get on Facebook? Do you know how far back it was?
It was 10 years ago because my memories are going back to 10 years ago.
Isn't that scary?
And I'm deleting a lot of the comments I write because they were kind of dumb. So I was like, why am I telling people I'm doing homework right now? Or
that's how. Yeah. Well, because we were using Facebook like Twitter at the time.
So
almost.
Yeah, so it's been 10 years for me, which I was in college, so I remember.
I'm just. What about you?
Sitting at a cafe in Berlin.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's when you started.
Yeah, we were on tour and like we were all on MySpace or something before, and like my roadie guy was like, "Do you guys want to maybe start with this Facebook thing?"
Wow.
And like we're like, I got nothing to do. The gig's in 6 hours? Yeah, sure. So we just kind of signed up, and it was.
Could you have ever imagined that moment would lead to eventually? We all work here. We constantly are talking about Facebook. It is a beast as far as how we interact with social media.
Yeah, it's
wild to me.
It is. It's definitely one of the things that really brought the web to be an accessible thing for people. Mm-hmm. I think with MySpace and Friendster were the ones that kind of rooted it, and then but there was a lot of problems with it. It wasn't the best interaction, and then Facebook really kind of nailed it, especially with the chat functions. And there was a couple other sites that were going to be Facebook killers, but then they didn't have the chat integration. They didn't have the messaging down, and they just sunk like rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook. LO. Do you guys remember when LO popped up for a minute?
I remember LO.
Everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is the best."
I think it was
thing.
dead in a month.
In a month, because they
just
because they didn't have a chat feature.
Yeah, and I think Facebook did a good job adjusting, getting a lot of information, kind of figuring out what everyone's liking, doing, and kind of adjusting it to make it, last a long time. Especially with businesses, making it important for business to integrate into it and become this platform of not just social profiles, but more of just a world of business profiles and groups and everything like that.
It's my very personalized spam feed.
Yeah,
exactly. Little bit, but we don't want to discourage people, because here's the thing: I am the demographic for that. I say this every single time anybody asks me, if you want to test ads on someone, test them on me. I will fall for all of them. I will fall for all of them. And so, but that's what actually has been really interesting to me about the way Facebook has done this and how they've grown, is it's really become not just, they recognize that the interactions that you wanted to have maybe wasn't just with your circle of friends or, keeping in touch with a couple of family members. It was finding like-minded people who had interests in the same things, and then saying, hey, by the way, you show that you're interested in whatever it may be, you're in these groups, your friends are seeing it, I'm going to give you this one too. This is going to fulfill also some of that. And helping put information in front of you, I can't even imagine how I would have found out about half the things I know now. Businesses that I've fallen in love with and how they interact. It's if I didn't know that this company existed, I would never have purchased from them. It would have never occurred to me.
And that's what Facebook did a good job. Instead of just kind of letting the users take control of their own profiles, they added in those new features and businesses, and now it's more about following different companies and different groups than I follow my friends.
Yeah.
I would say I interact a lot more with the groups than I do with friends.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing, because Facebook has always said this about themselves, is that they are interested in the communication. They want you to be able to talk to each other about things, and so having the Messenger app and having those groups that I have been blowing up and I think are awesome. I can only imagine if they've come this far in 15 years where they will be.
Yeah,
I'm in a lot of technical music groups where people will I've been working on this problem for a week. Can someone help me? And there'll be 30 experts, and each one giving their own little kind of spin on it. So it's very interesting.
Right. So that is going to do it through this week, our very long-winded rant about Facebook, but we talk about it a lot. It's very important. It's important to all of, I know our viewers like to hear about this kind of thing and what's up and coming, and so we will always keep you updated every single time. This is what we have Social Media Help Desk for. You can find us here every single week at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays. And again, if you have any interest in looking into our social media boot camp, we still have 2 more classes. This week is going to be LinkedIn. Next week is going to be YouTube. Those can be really interesting ones, and they totally serve different purposes, so just know what your business is looking for. So again, thank you to Daniel and Billy for joining me. I'm Alexandra, and we will see you next week.